Hey there, internet friends. Trevor Starkey here, live on the road at PAX West with today's TV Thursday. Going to try and keep the regular schedule a-rolling as I go through here. Just doing it from my hotel room. And I've got like a hair on my laptop that I'm trying to pick off, and it's just going to stay there because why not? Anyway, this week, of course, the big TV story to talk about, Game of Thrones. Season 7 wrapped up this last week. And I've been watching along the entire time, and it's been a lot of fun watching along this season because it's been a rarity in my time with Game of Thrones that I've been able to watch along. I watched the first season after it came to DVD or Blu-ray. Then I read like the first book, and then I started reading the second book. Didn't get through it until after watching the second season on Blu-ray. And I read like the second, third, and fourth books. And then I started the fifth book, but never got through it. And then seasons 3, 4... came out, watched them on Blu-ray. Season 5 I watched live, more or less, but I wasn't, like, consuming the conversation around Game of Thrones. And then Season 6 last year, I just kind of saw everybody's fervor on Twitter, but didn't watch it until right before Season 7 aired. And so Season 7 has been the first season that I've really been watching along and then just going out and consuming all sorts of other takes and opinions and feedback and wanting to hear people talk about the show. And so I've been watching stuff with like What Culture, with Collider, with Screen Junkies News, with IGN. I've just been like consuming as many Game of Thrones like reaction shows as I could this year. And it's been a lot of fun. The big place I tend to differ, I think, with most of the criticism this season has been like it's so rushed. They're just kind of going from place to place and just hitting beats. And it makes sense that that's a criticism since obviously the books aren't written and really Weiss and Benioff are just kind of working from. I think those are the guys running the show. They're just working from like bullet points for the rest of the series. But it's still, I really enjoyed it because this season wasn't about like long plotting setup. We're in the end game. It's where we don't have much time left. The story is near its end, near its conclusion. So we don't need to spend episodes going from one place to another. We can let that happen in one go. And it gave us this season so many of those wonderful instances of like characters finally coming together or back together after years apart. And that's one of the things I've loved about it is, this epic journey being told over the course of 7 years now. We're getting to see kind of things that were seeds that were laid way back when. We're finally getting to see some of those moments kind of come together. And it's been a ton of fun. One of my favorite moments was the whole team around Beyond the Wall when they went north of the wall, that whole team coming together and just the myriad of different like connections between each person in that unit and kind of them confronting it and talking about it. It was just a ton of fun to see 7 years of characters starting to really, really pay off and really accelerating how those relationships are paying off. The only reason I would have wanted a longer season 7 would have been for more of those kinds of moments. I'm not in the camp of I needed more of the battles. I was sad that we skipped over some battles and stuff like that. I couldn't care less about that kind of epic stuff. For me, Game of Thrones is so much about the characters and how they interact and how they come together and how they split apart. So I have not had any issues with like a lot of that stuff. There are certain, little tidbitty things here and there, nitpicky things here and there. But for the most part, I really enjoyed this season. It was a lot of fun. Again, seeing all these characters come together, seeing Dany finally reach Westeros and how she kind of hits the ball running. One of the things that I've hated is that everybody's been like, wow, Tyrion's just like completely botching everything this year. It's like, you're allowed to have misses. His what he's done now, like, he's not a bad military strategist. He was the one who like led and won the Battle of Blackwater. So like he's made some bad calls and he's not been able to anticipate maybe changes that occurred while he was away, which understandably makes sense. He he didn't really think that Jaime would have learned a lesson from being captured by the Starks and really kind of taken the Stark strategy into play with as it comes to Casterly Rock. So stuff like that. Like, I've been largely, I think, against the general consensus of the of like Tyrion being, Botchy McBotcherson in terms of his military strategy. But yeah, I mean, there was just a lot of good stuff. Maybe one of the weaker storylines, I think, was probably the Stark stuff at Winterfell, just because it felt like I loved the conclusion of it, but it didn't feel earned over the course of the season. You had too much Arya and Sansa at each other's throats in a real, genuine sense, because they've been apart for so long and they didn't, like each other necessarily when they were growing up. But the resolution of it with everything that played out with Littlefinger in that last episode was wonderful, but it, up until that point, it didn't earn that ending. Especially since they didn't give you like the turn, so we don't know when they started allying themselves with each other instead of being at each other's throats. We don't know when Bran came and said, "Hey, Littlefinger's a skis, and here's what I've seen." We don't. So they didn't give us the all the dots we needed to really feel that ending appropriately. But apart from that, like, I loved so much of the stuff with Dragonstone. I loved so much of the stuff with King's Landing, with the Wall, with Beyond the Wall. Just lots of great, beautiful moments. I mean, the Dragon's Pit sequence, with all of the different, big players coming together, was just wonderful. I can't wait to see Clegane Bowl that we got teased a little bit between the Mountain and the Hound. Yeah, it's fun seeing like Gendry come back and them even making a joke about how he's been rowing for 4 seasons. Yeah, I mean, the show definitely knows, I think, its endgame and knows that it has certain beats it has to hit before we get there. And so it doesn't have time to waste. Like, one of the biggest criticisms I saw was how quickly everything's going this season. And I feel like those are the same people that probably complained about the first few seasons about how slowly things were going. And this is just, we're barreling to the conclusion. It is, the first 6 seasons have been the setup and the exposition, and now we're at the climax of the series, and we're getting to the end point, and so, things just kind of go flying, which, works for me. I think I've talked about on one of these shows somewhere along the line. I've talked about it somewhere. Like, when I'm reading a book, as I get to the end of the book, I just kind of start like burning through the end of the book, and I've been known to completely miss things. Like in Order of the Phoenix, I miss like the big death at the end of Order of the Phoenix because I was just like so feverishly reading through those that I just missed certain details or certain like just didn't connect with me. So I can totally appreciate things flying fast and loose as we near the end of a big crazy saga like this, and I don't mind. The only thing, like I said, I would want more of would be kind of the character interactions. So many great character moments in the finale, like the quiet moments. There were great big battle moments, like Drogon, of course, like burning down the loot train or whatever. Was Brushwater? I don't know what the actual battle was, but when Dany first took Drogon into Westeros to battle, that sequence was really cool. But I loved more so the stuff between Jaime and Bronn that kind of led into it and stuff like that. So, the beginning of that episode was the first time that Dany and Jon ever really came together. So that was exciting. So yeah, those are my thoughts on this season of Game of Thrones. A lot of great stuff to love there. I had very few things in the way of real negatives. Just like MVP moments for character after character after character. Tormund's a ton of fun. The Hound's a ton of fun. Arya, when she's not working against Sansa, is a ton of fun. So like her fight with Brienne was lovely. Tyrion, Dany, Jon, all I think had a lot of great stuff this season. Davos is, you know, the MVP for coming up with the whole like raw crab or whatever as an aphrodisiac / decoy. Yeah, just a ton of fun this season. I loved it. I loved watching it. I loved like getting to feel like I was a part of the conversation this time, which has been a rarity in my Game of Thrones experience. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the long wait between now and and the final season. So here we go. Let me know what you think about Game of Thrones in the comments below. As always, I've been your host, Trevor Starkey from TrevorTrove.com. You can follow me at SnarkyStarkey on Twitter. And until next time, from here at the Trove, treasure your friends.